the record show that the meeting is reconvened at 7:44 PM with all council in attendance. Next on the agenda is consent agenda, approval of minutes. It's recommended the minutes of the combined council meeting held on January 20th, 2015 stand approved as recorded. Council Memo 40-15, regular payroll for December 26, 2014 through January 8, 2015, $2,239,923.56. It's recommended said regular payroll be approved. Council Memo 41-15, cost sharing for PACE bus route to Centerpoint. It's a budget adjustment. It's recommended this budget adjustment be approved. Is there a motion to approve said consent agenda items?
I'd like to pull Council Memo 41-15, cost sharing PACE bus route for Centerpoint for an explanation.
Certainly. In light of, we didn't have a pre-council meeting, I was going to ask to do the same thing. I just wanted to review this issue with council because PACE is asking us to share the cost with Centerpoint, and I have been in contact with their representatives yesterday, and they have agreed to share the cost of $14,700 each to cover the cost for the annual expense to continue a bus route down into the Centerpoint development. And in light of the fact that we're moving forward with our multimodal project and anticipate more trains and more buses coming into Joliet, I think it's important in terms of economic development to continue providing a bus for some of those people that don't have cars or don't want to drive a car down 53, and they can take a bus to get to work every day. So this provides just a route, circles through Centerpoint, stops at various business locations, and in the evening picks employees up and returns them to the train and bus station.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Krista?
Motion and seconded to approve said consent agenda items. Councilman McFarland?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Girl?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Mayor Durrani?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next are public hearings. First is Council Memo 43-15, a request for approval of an ordinance establishing the 2015 Joliet Special Service Area Number 1, John Street, Prairie Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
It is a public hearing, so...
Anybody want to speak on this? John Street Special Service Area? Krista?
It's been motion and seconded said ordinance be adopted. Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Girl?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Mayor Durrani?
Aye.
Quick
Motion
question, Mayor.
Yes.
You know, for those that are here or those that are watching, could you just give a brief explanation of what an SSA is?
Sure. Special service areas are initials for an SSA, and you've got 4 more continuous items approving special service areas, and in each case, these are areas where the city shares the costs with the residents based on a front footage for public improvements. It can be water, it can be sewer, or in the case this evening, these are all street improvements. Now, you can have, if the residents don't want this special assessment, they have an opportunity where over 51% can petition the city and say, we don't want our streets fixed, we don't want this special assessment. And that's the case in every one of these you're approving and considering tonight.
Thanks, Jim.
If it's a homeowner, it's capped at $300, right? And I believe, and if it's a hardship, the city will make arrangements for payments.
There is hardship
Right.
situations in each one of these.
Thank you.
Next is Council Memo 44-15, a request for approval of an ordinance establishing the 2015 Joliet Special Service Area Number 2, Clay Street, Eastern Avenue. Any public comments are in order at this time?
Anybody want to comment? Seeing none, is there a motion?
So, second?
Krista?
It's in motion and seconded, said ordinance be adopted. Councilman Otterkirk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Girl?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman McFarland?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Mayor Durrani?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 45-15, request for approval of an ordinance establishing the 2015 Joliet Special Service Area Number 3, Ida Street, Rayner Avenue, Woods Avenue.
This is also, anybody want to, yes, sir, step up to the microphone.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Joe Kaminska Senior. I live on Woods Avenue. And my two questions are for the special service area. Is this an ongoing assessment for all the streets that have been rebuilt recently here in the city of Joliet? So this is not a first thing that's just happening to us? That's my first question. So
If I
this is
may-
an ongoing thing that's been going on?
Correct.
Exactly, and if I may answer, years ago, when I lived on John Street and they did it, I had a 50-foot lot and it cost me like $1,300, so we have dropped it down, Joe.
Very good. My second question is, for the improvements to the area, will there be a chance to do like the half and half on sidewalks? Now, I currently do not have a sidewalk in front of my house, but I would like to have one added in. My neighbor directly next to me, to the west of me, does have a sidewalk in front of her house, and I would like to continue that in front of my house. Will there be a chance to talk to the engineer and see if this is a possibility to be built into how the street is going to be redone?
I'm going to direct that to staff.
We can make sure if we get your,
We discussed this.
in the back of the room, you can talk to the director who's standing up and give him your name and phone number, and he'll make sure he contacts you. The engineer gets a hold of you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you,
very
Joe.
much.
Thank you.
We need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, somebody else had, yes, step up to the microphone, please.
Hi, my name is Maria Diab, and I live in the corner of Island Woods. I'm very nervous, so please forgive me. I don't think there's anything wrong with my corner street, and they want to charge us a lot of money. We don't have that kind of money, and I don't think there's anything wrong with my street.
How much do they want to charge you?
$6,800.
Is it a rental?
No,
Jim? $6,800?
Is it a single-family residence?
yes.
It's
Well,
300. It's capped at
Yeah,
300.
it's capped at $300
That must be a.
for a single-family residence. It's a sliding scale if you've got a two-family dwelling or an apartment building, or there's a renter there versus owner-occupied, they're different rates, but they've all got ceilings on them, and so a single-family residence is $300.
Mayor?
Wait a minute. Jim, also, if they're on a corner, they only pay once, they don't pay for the other street. So if you're on a corner, you said you're on a corner, you pay the 300, and if they do the side street, you're not required to pay.
Okay, so
Okay.
I can talk to him and.
Yes, he's right in the back there.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Sure.
Ma'am,
Ma'am?
where did you get the number of 6,800?
My husband read it to me, so I don't know where he got it from, but I think it was on the paper.
Do you have, is that on the papers that you have?
Yes, I think, I'm just going by what he said.
I don't see anything on there for 6,800.
I'm sure that's an error. You can go in the back, talk to Jim. I'm sure that's an error.
Okay. Do you pay the bills in the house?
Pardon me?
Do you pay the bills in the house? Maybe he wants the rest of the money.
Quick question. Is that your husband back there?
No, not here.
Okay. I was wondering if he was crawling off under the bus you just threw him under.
He works for City of Naperville, too.
Okay.
All right.
Is there a motion?
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Was there somebody else? Okay, motion and second.
It's been motioned and seconded that ordinance be adopted. Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Girl,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman McFarland,
Aye.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk,
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 46-15, request for approval of an ordinance establishing the 2015 Joliet Special Service Area Number 4 Park, West Park Front to Cottage Place. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
Is there anyone that would like to speak on this? Not seeing anyone, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Krista?
It's been motioned and seconded that ordinance be adopted. Councilman Turk,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Girl,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman McFarland,
Aye.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 47-15, request for approval of an ordinance establishing the 2015 Joliet Special Service Area Number 5, Doris Avenue, Retta Court to 120 foot east of Helen Avenue. It is recommended said ordinance be adopted.
Once again, it's a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this? Doris Avenue. Yes, sir, step up. You look familiar.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm James Austin. I live at 215 Doris Avenue in the Clearview subdivision. My question is, you said it's a $300 assessment, right? Okay, now you're saying
If it's single family and you live there, if it's not a rental, so forth, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you're saying that also you're going to pay this assessment through your taxes for 1 year? Is this what you're saying?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so the $300 is what we as residents, the homeowners.
That's what you pay, yes.
That's what we pay.
Right.
Okay. Now, this, I know they have here's about this $43.75 or something for the, what is it, the,
Sidewalk?
every linear feet, you know, the frontage.
Oh.
So is this is not our concern, or is this the city's concern?
No, it's not your concern. They go out and they measure the project, and it's per lineal foot of frontage that you have on the road.
Okay.
They charge that, by a per foot basis. So every, larger, wider parcels are charged more than narrower
Some are,
ones.
right.
But there's still that cap.
Okay. So the cap is $300?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And I guess that's all I have to, say. I was just concerned about what we were gonna have to pay, so. So now this will be done, not this year, but next year, right? Or whenever. I don't know, when did you decide when you're gonna do this?
Next year, Jim? This year? This year.
This is this
2015.
year now.
This year.
Before, I think it was, it was gonna be 2016, that's what
Right.
you told.
Right.
Thanks to Mr. Hook, he probably looked in the paper, in the minutes and saw it was different. I remember that, because I know Mr. Thanis was the one that told us that it was gonna be done 2015, this year.
Okay.
So they're gonna start it this year.
Right.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
The motion seconded said ordinance be adopted. Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Girl,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 48-15, request for approval of an ordinance establishing the 2015 Joliet Special Service Area Number 6, Scribner Street, East Cass Street to Sterling Avenue.
This is
Recommended
also a
said
special hearing. Anyone that would like to speak on this? Seeing
Your
none,
Honor.
is there a motion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
this couple back here rode up in the elevator with me and asking about it, but one of the assessments, but I don't know if it was, they wanted to speak or just, sir, did you have a question about the assessment?
Yeah, it was
What,
the charging with 300.
Step up to
Sit up
the
here.
podium, please.
It was $300. My name is German Santos. I live in John Street.
okay.
So this $300.
What address?
Excuse me?
What address? I used to live on John Street. What-
Yeah. My neighborhood. So this $300 will be for 1 year, charge you on your taxes, or?
Yeah, that's total $300, right?
Okay.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
this was my question.
There. Thank you, thank you. Any other? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded, said ordinance be adopted. Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Councilman Huggs.
Aye.
Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Under ordinances and resolutions, under ordinances, Council Memo 50-15, an ordinance approving the vacation of a 14-foot by 115-foot alley that is not in service located at 28 East 4th Avenue. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second?
Any questions? Krista?
Been motion seconded to approve. Councilman Hugg.
Aye.
Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 51-15, an ordinance approving a special use permit to allow a U-Haul truck rental business at the existing Rio Grande Fresh Market located at 1115 Plainfield Road. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
Question?
Yes.
I was looking at this, and it's going to be 30, is that the correct number? 30 trucks, flatbed, including flatbeds and trucks and smaller rental vehicles?
There,
Jim?
8 trucks, 6 trailers.
Okay, and so they're going to be coming in and out of Plainfield Road in front of the grocery market?
Yes,
There's no back way into where they're going to be parked in the back?
there is not. You can see the graphic that's up there now.
Right.
It depicts where they're going to be.
Won't that be a problem for surrounding businesses?
Well, it's, if you've ever rented a U-Haul, it doesn't happen all the time. It seems like, Mr. Alvarado, you would know better, at the end of the month, when people are moving, is when they get the most amount of usage. Many times during the rest of the month, there's not much traffic, so they don't go in and out all that much. So we don't see it as that big of a problem, but again, I'll let the petitioner answer that.
Well, my concern was there was some residential right behind there, and I know we had an issue over there on Reed Street.
But it's not 30 trucks,
Yeah.
it's not 30.
How many?
No, it's trailers and it's dollies.
No, I said 30 count total,
Yes.
including,
20, but that includes dollies and
could I speak, please?
Sure.
Thank you. And then you will have a chance. Thank you. When I said 30, that was counting all the other vehicles, like besides regular trucks, smaller trucks, flatbeds,
Yes.
and the great, how big is the largest truck?
The smaller trucks, I mean, they're not the 24-footers. I would have to guess they're 14-foot. Would be the smaller ones.
So, I mean, how many are the bigger ones going to hold? Because if you're going to have those coming in and out of there, and then you don't have enough room, then there's going to be at one time more than 30 if someone brings one and drops it off. Is this a drop-off? Okay. Now it's up to the mayor if he wants him to speak, so I can ask him
Oh,
questions.
sure. Where's he at? Al, you want to step up?
Name's Alfonso Saucedo, owner of Supermercado Rio Grande.
Okay.
What there's 30 is not, it's not 30, it's 20.
It's 20, not 30? Okay.
Dollies, just dollies. Those would be about 3 to 5 dollies, which take about a section of, I would say, 8 by 10. That's what, right there, there's 3 trailers they're not trailers. They're van boxes, they're small.
Mm-hmm.
They're about 5 by 8, 4 by 6. Those take
Well, the ones that run for $19.95 for 30 minutes?
those are the 10, they call it 10-footers, the TMs. That's, as you go by the store, we only got 3 to 6 daily. The only reason we put, the other day, I asked you how to put as many as we can fit all the way around, so we can give you a better picture. That'll be top load, which be usually the holidays, which is Christmas, New Year's, because that week stops completely. But I don't want to have a problem on that week. That's why I asked them to give them a full load of what it would look like in case of something like that. But it's nowhere near.
Okay, it's not 30
I need the parking for my business. I run a good business.
Well, I know.
And I'm not
I've
going to
shopped
put it.
there.
Okay, I'm not going to put it for U-Hauls. The only reason I got the U-Hauls is in the back. I have no use for it.
Plus, the competition came in, so I just need a little extra income. But it's no way I'm gonna have 30 trucks there.
Okay, that was my concern.
No way.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes. Sure. Jim?
Al, could you just, so I've noticed some of the trucks parked in between, the front of the business and the neighboring. It used to be where they sharpen knives and there was like a house there. And I know it's hard for you to.
Oh, that was yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I moved them so I can park them, so I can move all the
Plowing
snow. It was bad.
So somebody, and I understand that people drop them off, you know what I mean? It's hard to dictate where they go. But at the end of the
No,
night.
but that was only there for about 30 minutes.
Yeah, well, I've seen them in front other days, except for
Oh, yeah,
yesterday. I guess
that's-
my question is, let me finish, please.
Okay.
My question is, at the end of the night, are you gonna make sure they're all moved to the rear of the building? Say somebody drops one off, so they're not in the purview of Plainfield Road. I mean, that's the only complaint I've had. I have no reservations, other fact, that what I've heard from some of the neighbors is they don't like them out front. They like to make sure that they're in the rear of the building. I was just curious, you're not there, management's there, somebody drops one off, returns the keys to you guys will make sure that they go to the back parking spots.
All right, we make sure there's no trucks in front.
All right.
There's no trucks in front at all, so.
Mayor.
The only reason it was yesterday.
That,
Wait a minute.
Okay,
Larry
sorry.
has- yeah. Larry?
Jim, are we requiring to be fenced in? We've had a couple come before us. One I think of is the Marathon, I think it is, on Larkin and McDonough, where they were required to fence it in. Are we requiring a fenced in here? I mean, that would be the fair thing to do.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, the fence is in place, correct?
All the way
rear.
around?
In the rear it is.
In the rear.
That's all. In the rear.
But on the side and front, no?
No.
Just in the rear.
They asked me to repair some fence and put them up and make sure it was all in close to the side, which I did.
okay.
Swan?
That brings me, Councilman McFarland made me think of something else. What are your hours of operation?
7:30 to 10.
Okay, so say someone drops the van off or the truck or whatever after hours, and they put the key, you have a key box, don't you?
We don't accept our drop-offs.
You don't accept drop-offs, because I know some places do.
No, I don't.
So you won't have that?
No.
So when they drop the truck off, someone will be there, so you'll be able to move it right away?
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion seconded, said ordinance be adopted. Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin. Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
One clarification, Jim, or Al, maybe you. So it will be blocked in the front by the building and the back by the fence?
Yes.
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Council Memo 52-15, an ordinance approving a special use permit to allow a scrap metal processing, transfer and storage, and outdoor storage of semi-tractors, trailers, and storage containers located at 900 East Washington Street. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
Jim?
A little background on this. This is Ace Metals is looking to relocate from their current site on St. Louis Street because the city needs it for a detention facility for development of the the Gateway Center transportation facility. This is a 6-acre site on Washington Street, it's the former DeSoto Chemical property. And they're requesting a special use permit for this site. It's got light industrial zoning. It also is adjoining residential use, R2, and general industrial to the east. There's adequate area for customer and employee parking on the east side of the building as well. Zoning Board of Appeals is recommending the approval with the usual conditions.
Any questions? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
The motion is seconded, said ordinance be adopted. Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye. Good luck, Jason.
Motion carried. Council Memo 53-15, an ordinance amending Section 2, Chapter 8 of the Code of Ordinances regarding temporary signs. It is recommended said ordinance be adopted.
Mayor?
Yes.
At this time, I'd request a member of council to table this. We've had a lot of feedback from the business community since we put the agenda out, and we want to make sure that they're included in these discussions and all of their concerns are addressed. So we'd like staff to work on it a little bit more, address those concerns, and send it back to committee before it comes to council.
Is there a motion to table?
So moved.
Second.
Time? Time?
Give us a month.
Okay. Motion to table
It's
for
the
a month.
first meeting, and
Krista?
I'm trying to look at the date for the first meeting. And I got a calendar.
Yeah.
March 3rd.
Thank you.
March 3rd.
Okay. It's in motion and seconded that Council Memo 53-15 be tabled to the March 3rd, 2015 council meeting. Councilman Otterkirk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin. Aye. Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Under resolutions, Council Memo 54-15, a resolution approving conveyance of real property located at 622 Railroad Street. This resolution is before council for their consideration.
Entertain a motion to approve with the two changes, if the city attorney wouldn't mind reading the two changes to the published memo.
Okay, it would be Section 2, substitute 50 years for 25 years. Section 11, add at the very end, and any improvements shall remain on the property. And then in Section 12, again, substitute 50 years for 25 years.
The motion, was there a
I
second?
will make a second.
Second.
One
Motion.
question or clarification, Mayor.
Sure.
The conveyance is in the form of a licensing agreement, correct?
That is true.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Your Honor, no, this is a comment. Excuse me, this is what we had our closed session about. There was a couple things brought up in closed session that I felt I would like more information on. And I don't have a problem, but most of the agreement. I do have some questions on a couple of it. And I would respectfully ask a 2-week table for staff to research those items we talked about and bring it back in 2 weeks.
Is there a second on the table?
Second.
Krista?
Been motion and seconded to table to the February 17th council meeting. Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Girl.
No.
Councilman Hug.
No.
Councilman McFarland.
No.
Councilman Morris.
No.
Councilman Otterkirk.
No.
Mayor Girani.
Aye.
Motion denied. So there was a motion to approve with the discussed changes, and it was seconded.
Was seconded by Council.
Yes.
Councilman?
So we'll start with vote on that. Councilman Turk.
No?
Councilwoman Gavin.
Present.
Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman McFarland.
I vote aye, and I just want to, for the public to understand that the city has an opportunity here to get rid of one of its white elephants. We have an opportunity to partner with a business that wants to bring good-paying jobs, that's taking a risk to remediate this property over on 622 Railroad Street that the city's owned since 2010, and actually put it to use. I think that what you see here is political posturing. We have an opportunity here to really take a property and put it not only to use, but to create sustainable jobs for people to be able to live in our community and go to restaurants like Juliet's and the Chicago Street. Again, we talk about creating jobs, and we have an opportunity to create good jobs instead of low-paying jobs with items like Chipotle and Potbelly, which are great assets to our community. But here's an opportunity as city leaders to create good, sustainable jobs. We're able to take a parcel of property that's been vacant since 2010 that we've held on to and put it on the tax rolls to bring tax dollars to the city. The other thing is this parcel of property has lots of contaminants within the soil that needs to be remediated. Land Use Committee had the opportunity to hear from two businesses that were looking at this parcel of property, presented to our committee twice, and our committee at the Land Use recommended to go with IMO Egan Marine to remediate this property and to actually utilize this property. I think it's a great compromise from a 50-year lease to a 25-year lease. Again, I think these are the type of projects we need to look at, set politics aside, and get our Joliet residents back working, put these properties back onto the tax rolls. We keep talking about Krabby Gales. It's been sitting for, 7 years with nothing. We have this property, again, that we could put to utilization. So I vote aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Otterkirk?
I'll vote aye also. I agree with the comments by Councilman McFarland. Maybe to add a little bit to it, I was approached by representatives from Egan Marine early last spring. They were looking to relocate within the city of Joliet. They were looking for riverfront property. They were presented with numerous different options by the city. They consistently have jumped over every hurdle that was placed in front of them. It's a good addition. They are committed to hiring Joliet employees, and I think Councilman McFarland said the key, sustainable jobs. These are $40,000, $50,000 a year jobs. It's a great addition to our community. I thank you guys for sticking with Joliet. You could have walked away a long time ago, but you persevered, so welcome, and aye.
That's what I said.
Councilwoman Coleman?
I don't disagree with what was discussed in closed session. However, I do have a couple of questions, and I appreciate your offer and everything. And, I don't see what harm 2 more weeks will do. So I don't want to vote no, and I don't want to vote aye, so I'll just vote present.
Mayor Durrani?
First of all, I don't know where the information come about good paying jobs. They are not union, number one. Number two, I think the project is good, but I have some questions about our agreement, and all I was looking for is have staff go back and negotiate with them and try to get a better agreement. I am not happy with this, and with that, I have to vote no.
Mayor, just one more comment, please.
Sure.
Just, if somebody from Egan Marine, I forgot to mention too, the dollar amounts that you guys are risking to put forth in terms of remediating the property because of the contaminants. Is there any way you guys can address that a little bit?
My name's Gary Davidson with Castle Law, local Joliet law firm. We're looking at about $1 million capital influx of total costs. So as it relates to the environmental, we have the phase 1 environmental. We don't know exactly until we get in there what type of contaminants we're going to see. We have to fully remediate the site. We've had a number of productive meetings with City Manager Hawk and Marty. Thank you, Marty. 2 weeks on the job, and he and I put this together. He had 10 comments. We agreed on 8, and the only 2 issues that were remaining were really non-legal issues, which was the term of the lease or the term of the license agreement. But as it relates to your specific question, as it relates to the total environmental remediation, somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $100,000 in total outlay. Just for purpose of an explanation and not to belabor the point, the reason that we were asking for a 50-year term is the lowest license agreement for the Illinois Metropolitan Water Reclamation District for all of these governmental entities that license properties along the canal is 44 years. Because of the expense and the capital infrastructure that we have to put in to get your return on your investment. So we believe that once we get this blighted property back on the tax rolls, once we get this property producing jobs for the city of Joliet, once we get the people who are on these barges coming in and spending money on groceries, et cetera, that it won't be a problem to come back to the city of Joliet and make a compelling argument to extend it. So that's the purpose of the reason why we were so quick to accept the 25-year period. But in terms of capital outlay, total capital outlay into this project, it's going to be $1 million. And let's be perfectly clear here. Right now, this property is not generating any tax dollars, not to our school districts, not to the county, not to the city. So immediately, it's going to immediately go onto the tax rolls because it's going to be utilized by a private entity. So we really appreciate the commitment. Councilman Oderkirk was out in front of this. This has been going on for a year or two. This is not, the record should be clear that this is not something that the city of Joliet has been quick to respond to, and this is not our first time here. So this has been a long process. There's been plenty of time to discuss this, so we really appreciate the action of the council tonight.
Sir, excuse me, I have a question. That's one of the concerns I had, the amount of $1 million come out that you're going to invest, but I never saw anything in black and white what that consisted of. That was one of my questions, and that's the problem I had with it, okay? You're saying $1 million. You said $50,000 to $100,000 in remediation and a total of $1 million. Like I say, that was one of the problems I had. I never saw anything that spelled out what that $1 million was going to do.
And that's fair enough, and I, you'll have to speak to your staff with respect to that. The city of Joliet had the Phase 1 environmental. The city of Joliet has engineers. You have the capacity to determine what the cost of the remediation is. So I would presume that any engineering company, by reading the Phase 1, could tell you what those costs were. So I mean, that stuff was at the disposal of the city. Now, what due diligence was taken in looking into that, you'd have to answer that question.
That's my problem. I asked staff, and they had no idea either, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Motion carried. Under bids and contracts, award of contracts, Council Memo 55-15, purchase 11 Panasonic Toughbook computers for the fire department. Council Memo 56-15, purchase firefighter turnout gear. Council Memo 57-15, purchase vehicles for the public utilities and public works departments. Council Memo 58-15, approve annual service agreement for sewer system monitoring. Council Memo 59-15, award a contract for the wastewater nutrient analytical testing services. Council Memo 60-15, approve a professional engineering services agreement for the West Side wastewater treatment plant influent pump station upgrades. Council Memo 61-15, award a contract for the Haldeman Terrace Sewer Rehabilitation Point Repairs Project. Council Memo 62-15, purchase used end loader for the Public Utilities Department. It's recommended Council Memos 55 through 62-15 be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Question?
The motion is seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Odekirk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Mayor Durrani.
Aye.
Motion carried. Under amendments, change orders, and payments, Council Memo 64-15, approved change order number 2 for the Aux Sable Creek Basin wastewater treatment plant effluent pump addition project. It is recommended Council Memo 64-15 be approved.
So move.
Second.
Questions?
Been motion and seconded to approve. Councilman Girl.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman McFarland.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Odekirk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Mayor Durrani.
Aye.
Mayor?
Yes.
I would like to bring back Council Member Memo 5115. After further review under the zoning board conditions in that memo, it says that not more than 10 trucks and 20 trailers. That's a total of 30. Now, we agreed to 20. So I discussed with Council Marty Shanahan, and he said to bring it back and maybe amend.
Just clarify.
To clarify
Just 'cause
it.
if you look at page is, this is 20. Just to clarify that it's
20.
20,
It is
not
20?
30.
It's not 30?
Well, it says 30 and 20.
Okay, so we wanted to clarify that it is 20, not 30, according to the ordinance.
All right, thank you.
Next is the city manager report.
A couple of things I just wanted to speak on this evening. First of all, this Thursday at 6 PM in the By Park Auditorium will be a meeting with Peter Holston of Holston Real Estate Development to talk about the future of Evergreen Terrace. He'll be introduced and do a PowerPoint presentation of the history of his organization. Then he'll introduce architects who he's worked with for years. People will have note cards for questions and comments, and they'll review those note cards, answer those questions, and then the last 30 minutes will be public comment. During this, there will be presented a few options for redevelopment of the property, and so, again, that's this Thursday at the By Park Auditorium. The other thing I want to point out to you on your screen that you see is staff's been working with the County Road Commission, with IDOT, with CenterPoint, with all of the truckers who are concerned getting in and out of CenterPoint. And at this point, we're looking at a map of what we think will resolve most of the concerns now that Walter Strawn is closed. So they'll come in from 53 to Laraway Road and then head south and be able to loop around. There's a left-hand turn signal and head directly south where the yellow line is, and then turn around and head back north because CenterPoint only has a north entrance. Now, we'll probably take a look at a modification of creating a southbound entrance into the CenterPoint development, but that of course would require a traffic study and will take some time. With Arsenal Road and Laraway, the only ways in and out to both the Joliet and the Elwood facilities, come spring, we'll be doing some truck counts to see what kind of increased traffic we're experiencing on Laraway Road. Right now, the county is charging $20 per trip, per truck, for overweight vehicles on Arsenal Road. An overweight vehicle are these grain containers that go up to 88,000 pounds. So the question is, if we are experiencing a huge increase in the number of trucks or overweight trucks on Laraway Road, staff may come to you with a recommendation for having a similar charge for those overweight permits.
Mr. Mayor?
The other, I'm sorry?
Yeah, on that point, Elwood also charges for an overweight permit, correct?
Well, they aren't anymore because Walter Strawn's closed, but they used to, and they charged almost $500 a month per truck.
Don't you think we should have something implemented? I mean, anyone who's been down there knows that those trucks are using Route 53 and Laraway.
No, that's true. We want to see what kind of extra burden there is. We know what the truck count is today on Laraway Road, but now with the closure, we want to find out how many additional trucks are going to be coming on Laraway versus taking 55 to Arsenal Road. And based on those numbers, we'll come to you with a recommendation.
Okay.
Jim?
Yes?
Have we explored possibly that section of Laraway, either giving it to CenterPoint or the state?
There are two sections in this area that the city owns that we're in the process of transferring back to CenterPoint, but it doesn't include Laraway Road. And at this point, because you've got a lot of businesses located on Laraway, and you've got waste management at the end of the street there, and at times there's significant backup of traffic. We want to be able to control that for now, but you're right, that may be a consideration in the future.
Because the concern that I guess the public feedback that I've received is some of the folks that live in the city that drive the trucks from the grain aggregator. They're 92,000 pounds. I know that's overweight to our standards. You're
Right.
probably well aware of that.
Yes.
So just maybe that's something to look into. Again, if we go into permitting, I guess you have to look at staffing, regulating it, and, policing it. So.
Well, you do have county and state police out there with portable scales, and because those overweight containers have to come up 53 northbound, they could get pulled over and weighed by the state and county, and if you're over 88,000, there's significant fines.
Right. All right, thank you.
Question, Mayor. Question.
Oh,
The,
Jim, one more.
We own a couple of scales, don't we? Are we allowing our police force to use them and collect the revenue for those that are?
I'll let the chief
violating?
address that.
We do. We have portable scales down there in the area as well. Our main goal right now, though, is to improve the traffic flow. We don't want to obstruct traffic in any way. The more enforcement that we do down there, the more opportunity is for gapers delays and slowing the traffic flow. We do enforce the scales and the overweights as well, though, but especially with Walter Strong being closed, our main goal now is to observe the increase in the traffic flow up 53 and see what problems that causes for us.
Thanks, Chief.
Jim?
And the only other thing I had was that you may have read in the paper that Cresco was awarded the cultivation license for medical marijuana here in Joliet, and also the Compassionate Care was also awarded the dispensary here in Joliet as well. So,
The dispensary is in Joliet, too, because
Yes.
I heard it was Naperville.
there's also one in Naperville,
so-
too.
so, all right.
But,
That's Judge Levis's group?
yes,
Yes,
yeah, that council approved.
right.
So those developments will be moving forward as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Mayor,
Sure.
could you refresh our memory? I believe the Compassionate Cure dispensary will be off Rock Run Business Park,
Yes.
off Olympic. And then
Yes.
the Cresco, the cultivation, where was that at?
That's just north of the Audubon.
Okay.
There's 13 acres there.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
We're going to go back, citizens be heard. I know Chris Pedersen signed up for yesterday.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes,
first.
I'm sorry, sure.
Jim, was the meeting with respect to Centerpoint at By Park, was that going to be a special session of council, or was that just I thought I read somewhere that it was going to be a...
You're talking about the Evergreen Terrace meeting on
I'm sorry,
Thursday?
Evergreen Terrace meeting, yes.
Well, kind of like when Camaros was here in City Hall, if we posted it as a special meeting so that if there is a quorum of council, we'll call it the meeting to order and then turn it over to them. That allows you as council members to go to the podium and make public comment on what you think should happen in Evergreen Terrace as well. And if there's still a quorum at the end, then we'll adjourn the meeting.
Very good, thank you.
Sure. Chris?
Greetings, Council. To this distinct statesman IFB Pro Christopher W. Pedersen, 702 Vine Street, Joel, Illinois 60485. To this distinguished body and councilmen and councilwomen, including legal counsel and Chief City Manager James Hock, this day of February 3rd, I want all staff to make sure our great city of Joliet, City of Champions, Crossroads of Mid-America, and council, prioritizing, when we phase in and prioritize the order our 5 major projects yet, which are multimodal, Egan Marine, Camaros, Rialto Square Board Theater Fund, and NOPT. And when I address the council, I'm just, a prioritizing manner, if I could have council approval for the prioritizing, because I feel that our major projects that are on the agenda that we have, we're not prioritizing them. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Good. Mr. Zweers, Don?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm back again on trying to get the city to allow candidates for public office to use that, the website for their promotion of their candidacy. I've talked with Scott Kinsella, and he said there's no problem as far as the technology is concerned. And I talked with Martin, and he thinks it's a good idea, but he's recommending not to do it. And I've also talked to another person that said that it would be interfering with the, if a councilman was running for re-election, then he would be using city stuff for promoting his candidacy. And I think that all of these things are for you to consider, because it's your decision whether you allow us to do it or not. But I think the biggest thing is that if you could have us do it for just the 2 months to the April election, find out what the effect would be on the community. Will we have more people signing up to vote, registering to vote? Will we have more voters voting? Will we have more community participation in meetings and so forth, discussing the pros and cons of each of the candidates, if there's more than one? And I accept whatever you decide. And I appreciate the opportunity to be part of the government, and I learned a lot.
Okay, Don, thank you. Thank you. Marty, don't we have rules about using city property or city access for political reasons?
Yes, that was actually one of the, there's two statutes, I thought. The first one is the Ethics Act, and it was touched on a little bit, and the other one is the Election Code. So what would essentially have to happen is there would have to be an employee monitoring the situation and what's being posted and what's not posted. Now you're using public funds for advancing campaigns.
All right, thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
And I appreciate it, Don. The other person Don was referring to was me. Don and I spoke over the weekend at an event that was held by Councilman McFarland. And Marty, that's what I had said. I said, you know, even under our ethics ordinance, we're not allowed to use city. I said, the quandary I see is we're not allowed, any of us up here, to use city resources, city property in the furtherance of our campaign.
Right.
But yet, if we allowed this to happen, that all candidates could go on there, then if we participated, we'd be violating our own ethics ordinance. Am I correct?
You would.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Marty. Thanks, Don, for giving me cover.
New business not for final action or recommendation. Yes.
I just want to bring a point of order on new business, and we can get back to it in the recent light of raised up temperatures and heated discussions in various city council meetings. I tend to look at our setup as we are here, and I think that if we can pay a little bit attention to the security of this building and security of this room, I think I'd like to see us have some conversation around that for protection of staff and council.
Maybe that should go to the Safety Committee, John, to discuss the security of the
That would be.
council chamber?
Yes, Your Honor, we can certainly take a look at that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I do, yeah. I've got a, I apologize for my absence at the last council meeting. So I got a lengthy agenda here. The first thing I'd like to ask our city manager is, I read the Herald News on Thursday, January 29th, and there's a quote in here that said he had yet to be invited to discuss formal negotiations regarding the courthouse. And that was kind of alarming to me when I read that. Have we at all invited ourselves to maybe sit down with the decision makers to kind of get the ball moving on what role the city would have in terms of keeping the courthouse downtown, but also what are we looking at in terms of incentivizing? I've heard from different county officials that have come before us, that I've had conversations in passing, items I've read in different media outlets on what is the city doing to wow or lure to keep the courthouse downtown? I would like to see some type of plan now of what it is the city can offer to keep the courthouse downtown as we look at incentives for trying to bring business to town. And maybe this is happening since this article, but I would like to have, maybe it's something for the Economic Development Committee to tackle, but I would like to have a plan to see where we are today and what we're looking at in terms of financial commitment with maintaining the courthouse downtown Joliet.
If I may, I was at a meeting this morning at the county building with that committee. Reagan Freitag is the chairman. We talked about what the city's doing to run sewer and water down, not Laraway Road, down Route 52 to get to their site, the sheriff's site. That's one of the things we're doing, and I told them that we would do anything we could to ensure that the courthouse stay in downtown Joliet. We are in the process of trying to set up a meeting this week with Larry Walsh Sr. and Jim and myself. That will be one of the topics of discussion.
Okay. Again, we voted to bring fiber optic downtown, which is well overdue. But again, we keep having all these pie in the sky conversations, and what I'm hearing from county officials and folks in the know, per se, is they're looking at some type of commitment from us. And I want to make sure that we can start planning if there's going to be a financial contribution on behalf of the city, that we're looking to see how we're going to fund that. I heard there's been conversations thrown out there about assessments to try to raise funding to supplement the courthouse on the city's behalf. So I'd just like to have some dialogue and something that we can have so we can digest it and have a long-term plan.
If I may, we have the dialogue. In the February 17th meeting, we're going to get the easements to vote on to get the sewer and water down to that. Should be done at the next meeting. I don't see, yeah, I see Jim here. He's working on that as we speak. So hopefully that'll get in place, and then we will move on with what we can do for the courthouse.
Can I ask why our city manager hasn't been invited to negotiate any of the formal negotiations? I mean, I think we should have staff at the table.
Haven't you, Jim?
Yeah, and I talked to the chairperson yesterday on the telephone to tell her I wouldn't be attending this morning. I had a meeting conflict with HUD this morning. But that, my comment was in reference to, I said I didn't know when the board meets, but in reference to the meeting that they had with their, the White Architects consultants was a private meeting that I think that committee and some of the board members were invited to at their work site, at their offices, and I'm not even sure it was, open to the public or general knowledge that meeting was taking place. And the mayor's correct. We've been working with the county executive's office, not just talking about the courthouse, but a number of properties, including Chicago Street, State's Attorney's Building, and some properties that they're interested in from the city, to put together a memorandum of understanding that would ensure that the most desired location for any county building would be in downtown Joliet.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to piggyback on that?
If I could.
Sure.
Yeah. Mayor?
Sure.
Yeah. Just to kind of piggyback on what Councilman McFarland and Mayor Girani had said, and as well City Manager Hawk, I think we need to make sure, Jim, that you are at, and not just a member of your staff, but that you are at every meeting that as far as discussions with respect to the courthouse, because this is a very important deal, as far as the courthouse remaining in downtown Joliet. So I would get their schedule, their county schedule, and make sure you're at those capital improvements meetings. They may or may not be talking about it at that point in time, but at least you're there, and it shows, that we are definitely concerned. And I know you are. I'm not saying you're not. I know you are. In addition, I think we need to get, there's a lot of, the business deal with the county is still up in the air. We're talking about Chicago Street going through. We're talking about parking. We're talking about, the city of Joliet's commitment to downtown. There's just a lot of things that are up in the air, and I think what we need to get to is some type of intergovernmental agreement with the county so we can put the business deal in writing. So I think that's what, when you're talking with their staff in the executive's office and the staff from the county board, I think maybe that's what Councilman McFarland was getting at. We need to codify a deal. Because right now, there's so many business terms that are up in the air, it's difficult. It's difficult to negotiate. So I think as soon as we can, we need to basically codify in the form of some form of intergovernmental agreement what the business deal is so we can, move forward, with the courthouse. And that may include incentives, financial incentives, maybe commitment on, on the city's part as far as, what our plan is for downtown. I don't know if all the county officials, I know there were a few here when the Camaros presented their study. That might be something you might want to mention to Chairman Freitag as far as presenting that Camaro study to that committee so they can see all the exciting things that we have planned for downtown Joliet. So just some thoughts. But I think we definitely need to get to a point where we codify the deal between the city and the county in the form of some form of intergovernmental agreement so we can, move this courthouse issue forward.
Councilman, if I may, I think this easement deal that we're working with is step one.
Sure.
Also, in helping with her name, Jacolitis, the woman from the county, Jacolitis.
Jacolitis.
Jacolitis,
Yes.
thank you. She does send me a
It's a
schedule of
Slovenian
meetings.
name. I can see why they had trouble pronouncing it.
Should have had a vowel on the end.
Yeah.
I do get a schedule of meetings from her monthly, so I do know when they are. I don't know, do you get that, Jim?
I don't.
No, I'll have to forward it to you then, okay?
Yeah, those meetings are published, and we need to get that in your hands, Jim, so that you are at every meeting.
I do get that.
Mayor?
Thank
How
you.
about
Yes. Yes.
What I'm hearing, I agree with everything. We need to make this a priority, and I'm thinking, I would hope there's a consensus here amongst the council that we do make this a priority, to keep the county seat down here and do whatever we can to, be proactive instead of reactive, and maybe think outside of the box with some different ideas on keeping them here.
Yeah, I agree with Councilwoman Quillman and Councilman Girl. I could tell you, I've had several meetings with some of the principals involved here, and I don't know why this isn't being brought up, but it seems clear to me from the conversations I've had that the county is going to be looking for a dollar commitment from the city of Joliet. And I don't know if that's, you're talking about easements or water lines. I think that's the big issue here. I don't know what we're willing to spend, but I do think that we should be addressing that now, because it would seem clear that they're going to come forward and ask for that.
I agree 100%. I mean, they're going to ask us to step up to the plate with some dollars, there's no question about it, and the importance of having it down here. I think there's 2,400 county employees that work downtown Joliet, so to lose that would be terrible, but I agree, we may have to step up to the plate with some money, so.
Question.
Sure.
I'm going to leapfrog on the piggyback here. Simple question. I mean, there's been conversations with the mayor, with other staff members, maybe particularly with Jim Hock. Has there been any requests that we've basically said, oh, we can't do that? I
No,
mean,
no,
So
we have
I
not.
think we're all in agreement then. Take the positive that's already rolling forward on these preliminary discussions, and let's get it codified. As the councilman said, let's let them know that we want to keep it here in Joliet.
I think, if I may, I think one of our priorities first is to cut a deal, and we've discussed this with them, to get Chicago Street open, okay? That may include turning over one of the parking decks, but that has been discussed, and they know that is one of our priorities, get Chicago Street open, so.
Okay, keep going. Thank you guys for the dialogue. Jim, thanks for making this a priority. The two next issue is going to be, I want to talk about the NOPT. As many residents are aware, we've had 9 murders since Thanksgiving. And one of the initiatives that we took as a council in approving this last budget was hiring more manpower in the police department. And I was just curious, Chief, if you could answer this, and I'm sorry I didn't give you a heads up before this evening's council meeting to be prepared with your remarks, but my question is, where are we at in terms of instituting back the NOPT officers? Where are we at in terms of the NOPT officers going back into the schools was mentioned. Could you just give us an update on kind of where we are?
Yeah, we're kind of at a standstill. As I mentioned the last meeting, we have an expired list that we're not able to hire off of the new list until we complete the backgrounds for our new applicants, which was just approved last week. Once the backgrounds are then completed, we will move forward with the next step in the process, but it's going to be months before we're able to get these officers hired, put in through an academy. I don't know that we'll make the March deadline yet, but it's likely that we'll be going to an academy in June, and you're still looking at the FTO period once they get out of the academy. So while, again, I appreciate council support to hire the officers in this year's fiscal year, it's not likely that they're going to be on the street operational until the fall. So we're going to have a bit of a setback here in terms of filling the positions that we'd hope to fill. As far as NOPT, we do have, as you know, we reinstated our neighborhood policing unit a couple years back. We're going through a turnover now, well-publicized. Officer Riley, one of our dear NOPT officers, just retired. We're going through a selection process to replace him with, so there's going to be a bit of a lag time in filling that role, but it is our intent to get back up and running. As far as the schools go, I believe I was misquoted in the paper. I meant to talk to Bob Ocon when he was here. I did not say that we're going to replace the officers in the schools. That wasn't one of our initiatives. I said we have officers in our high schools. We have liaison officers at Plainfield South and both Central and West. They're very active and they fulfill a vital role there. But as far as our safe school unit, which was a component of neighborhood policing, it fell under the same umbrella. We did not plan to reinstitute the safe school program. We did not plan to implement officers back into the schools, and I do think there was some misconception from that article.
Absolutely. I think that's a couple folks have indicated to me that they haven't seen officers in the schools from the NOPT, so that would explain that. Thank you. Two other things, and this is for staff. As you noticed, this evening, we voted on the parcel of property for Ace Metals. Again, something with the multimodal transportation center. Something that I would like to see staff come back to full council in a report is I like to see from the beginning of this project to where we are today, the revenues that we've taken in through state, federal grants, and get a payout of what we spent so far of these state dollars and federal dollars, along with what we've spent with our city tax dollars, and where we are at in terms of those dollars. There's been a lot of debate and hot topic about what we've purchased property for. I won't bring up 10 South Chicago Street again, but I'd like to see if we are on target at the budget line for this multimodal transportation center. Are we over budget? I haven't seen any really sheets that have compared in terms of the revenue that we've taken in from these grants. My understanding is that we did receive the money already, but where are we at in terms of expending that money, and are we on budget? The same thing with the sewer separation project. I like to have an ongoing tally of the loan dollars that we received and what we've expended so far, so we can make sure we, as a council, can police whether or not we're on budget on these two major projects, especially with all the dialogue that's been taking place in the state with funding cuts from dollars that have been committed from our state government. So my understanding is that we've received all the state dollars for this project for the multimodal. I'm not sure of that, but that's, again, something I'd like to have a report back maybe at next council or the week after on those two projects. The third thing is we talked about, I've talked about this in committee quite some time ago, and we talked about a month ago, is again, with the sewer separation project, is a type of outline of what's going to happen in the following year and the years after on our water and sewer rates. I would like to have that presented to us. I've asked now it's been quite some time. I'm going to have to go back to the minutes to see when I first brought this up, but I don't understand what the holdup is. We're already into this year's budget. I like to have a projection so we can take a look, and if we have to make decisions now, we do so. But I like to see what is the projections in terms of sewer or water rate increases for 2016-17. Again, I do not want to do what this council had to do previously and do a 45% water sewer rate increase all at one time. So if we could get that expedited and presented to the council or at the Public Service Committee, I'd truly appreciate that. And that's all I have for new business.
Let me address a couple of those things. In that beautiful document I passed out to you tonight, which is our final adopted budget, money was appropriated by council this summer to employ a firm to do a water and sewer rate study, so that we can, as you say, stay ahead of the curve, knowing what our needs are in both of those areas, and so that if water or sewer rate increases are needed, we can do them in a efficient manner to stay ahead of our debts and not have significant impact or significant increases at any given time. The other thing is that in the next meeting or two, we anticipate to have a memorandum of understanding before you for your review and consideration on the multimodal project, and as it affects the project and the project budget. And I want to provide an entire update on the project as well as the budget when you consider that memorandum. So that should be in the next couple of meetings.
Okay, thank you. You know, one last question. This morning, I received a phone call regarding the parking study downtown. This, again, is an ongoing, we asked for public feedback, dissected all the information. Where are we at on this? Is this something that's held up because of the courthouse, or?
No, we were waiting for City Center Partnership to release the downtown development plan and what their recommendations. They've had the study. Hopefully we'll be incorporating some remarks into the downtown development plan. Then take that and weigh it, with, against our study, and then have dialogue on what we want to do.
Thank you.
Forward.
Mayor? I'll try to be as brief as I can. I'll give some background before I make the statement I want to make and the direction I want to see staff preliminarily engage in this direction and then come back to us. I'd be surprised if there's one person up here on this council at that table or at that table that didn't get a call about snow. Okay? First of all, I want to make it perfectly clear that our Public Works Department works their butts off. From the time the first flake falls and we get 2 inches on the call out, they're running as long as they're allowed to run around the clock. And then we have people that are concerned about budgets and overtime budgets and such, and we have to address that. I've explained to a lot of people, I've taken it to social media, sent out emails, made phone calls, and I will tell them the way it is. At its height, we had nearly 50 plows in this city of 150,000 people. We now have 31. Strike that, go backwards. We've got 34 plows, 5 or 6 of which are held together by spit, and then we got 31 drivers. I want a serious study of our public works needs around the year-round with the ash borer and with the snow events, and I want a doable and attainable timetable to bring it back. The people on the far west side deserve better than what they're getting, and that's no fault of the Public Works Department. These guys are out there working their butts off. It goes a lot easier, a lot smoother, and a lot quicker when you give them enough salt in their budget, and when you have 48 trucks driving instead of 31. That's simple math that a 5-year-old can figure out. So I want this studied immediately, and I want some answers, because I'm not going to go on taking these calls and trying to assuage people. They're getting the truth. We need, as a council, staff, Jim, Hawk, you need to come back to us and report to us how quickly we can address this. Yes, I've also explained for the first time in 4 years, we've hired additional, not just replaced, hired, and I thank you for Jim for that, you and I discussed that, 4 additional drivers. We got the additional trucks, including the second 2.5 ton, right?
Yes.
So now we're going to have 35 drivers and possibly 36 trucks, unless a couple of those trucks held together with spit fall apart eventually. We need to get back up to 48 as soon as possible. The 4 is a step in the right direction, but the people need to know what's going on, and they need to know we're addressing it. So I would like a report on what we need to do to accomplish this. And for this year, for the remainder of this year, I'd like to see a bump in the budget on salt. The far west side is starving for salt, and that's not no fault of the Public Works Department. That's a fault of the powers that be that only allow so much money to be spent, and we need to change that immediately.
Along those lines, Jim, salt-wise, I believe we have all we can hold. And secondly, I got calls about the roads being very bumpy and like a country road. I've never seen that before. What caused that? I know some roads were bare, and then other roads, they were very bumpy, and, I mean, you had to drive 20 miles an hour.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, as I explained to a couple people on phone calls, I've had a lot of phone calls myself, and Mike and I have discussed this many a time too over the storm, and John Dillon, who's sitting back there, also one of our foremen. This event was a rather unusual snowstorm for the fact that it was very warm when this, first, to back up, when the event started, when the storm started, we actually had some rain, light rain on Saturday evening between like 6 and 8:30. Eventually it turned over to snow. The snow was very wet and heavy, as anybody was out there. I'm sure all you folks were out there. If you didn't do it yourself, hired somebody to clean your driveway or your sidewalks off. We don't usually get a very wet snow like this time of the year. In the middle of winter, we're normally very cold, we're very dry. It was about 32, 33 degrees, so the snow was very wet, it compacted. And that's how we end up getting this layer of hard pack on all our roads. You know, there was a lot of folks out on Sunday. Granted, it was a day off, but a lot of people were out and about still. I mean, I was out myself with the street department folks, you know, trying to get a handle on what was going on and the directions we were going to take, but which I'll talk about in a second. But anyway, because of this wet nature, this, the beginning of the snowstorm, we had about 8, 9 inches. It was very wet. You could drive over and it compacted. Usually, when you've got dry snow, you know, it's easy to plow right down to the pavement. We could not plow right down to the pavement. That was the big problem we had. So since that, after that point, starting around maybe around middle of the day on Sunday, it got colder. The snow got drier. We were, you know, obviously you're able to push that off. We were able to push the wet snow to a degree, but you had a hard pack. And like I said, that's not what we usually get this time of year. That's kind of more typical of early in the season or in March, later in the season. Of course, also with the amount of snow we receive, we had anywhere from 15 and a half, 16 inches of snow. That's, you know, one of the larger events in the Chicago area. I think they're saying it's the 5th largest in the Chicago area. So you had a couple, you know, this coupling with wet snow, getting compacted down by people driving around on Sunday, compacting it down. There's folks going to church, things of that nature. Before we started having power outages, a lot of people were still heading to the malls, places of that nature. So that was the issue we had. Then it got very cold, as you guys all recall. It got very cold overnight, Sunday night into Monday. I think we were about 5, 6 degrees Monday morning. So that hard pack, it was pretty smooth for a while to drive on. At the end of a storm, to back up a second, typically when we first get a storm, we are on our main routes only. We don't get to residential streets. We got to stay on the main routes, the hospital routes, the hills, all our main routes within the city. After the snow finally stopped, and it got very, very cold, it was smooth to drive on. At the very end of the storm, the snowstorm itself, on our main routes, after we're plowing them, we then put salt down. Monday, the sun came out. It didn't get very warm, about mid-teens, but that salt starts activating. We add, you know, different chemicals to the salt to also lower the freezing point. So we start softening up some of that snow, that hard pack, and when people drive on it, it fluffs up. It looks like you didn't plow streets. That combined with the drifting we had on the drier snow, the last 6 inches was very dry snow on top. That drifted over. I was on many of the roads, even kind of somewhat in the middle of town, Glenwood Avenue between Essington and the Northfield subdivision. That area, there was a lot of drifting. We actually lost one of the right-hand westbound lane because of the drifting that was going on. So kind of an unusual event in that respect, but we've been trying to combat that. Obviously at this, you know, our crews were out about 12 o'clock or 12:30, if you want to say, early Sunday morning. We worked. So most of the guys worked till around 7 o'clock last night, even later. We were back at it at 7 this morning. We resalted a lot of the streets that had this hard pack and ice. And with the warmer temperature today, got about 25 degrees. We had sun in the morning. That helps soften it up, but it also gives you people the impression that we weren't plowing, even on the residential. So our guys, all of our crews worked till 7 this morning till 7 tonight. Our folks who worked the night shift, we actually we might had them come in earlier. They start at 7 this evening. So we continuously have been going back through all our routes and replowing. But it's kind of, like I said, kind of unusual event to have this situation. Mike, would you like to add more to that? Sure. A little more about the procedures and operation.
Yeah, basically, to add to that, while it's snowing, while we're getting the 15 inches, 16 inches of snow, we're continually staying on the mains and secondaries and some of the subdivision mains, especially out far west. And we're not putting salt down because we're continually plowing that. So we're going over that and just plowing and plowing and plowing. So that adds to the hard pack of the snow. The reason why is you'd be wasting salt. If you're putting down salt every time when it's still snowing for another, 12 hours, this event went on for 31 hours. If you still put salt down, you're just throwing the salt off onto the side of the road, and it's a waste. So that's one of the main reasons why we don't put salt down continuously. As Jim said, this kind of a snow we don't get until later in the year. And later in the year, it doesn't dip down to 6 degrees. So while you might have hard pack, it doesn't last very long later in the year because it's warmer and the pavement temperatures are warmer. Our pavement temperatures are lower right now in the middle of the winter. So that bond between the ice and or the hard pack, the snow and the street is very strong. When we go over with our plows, you would think a big heavy plow would be able to just knock that stuff out, but we don't spray Pam on the street, so it doesn't come off as quickly as we'd like it to. So we have to really be aggressive, and that's what we've been today, and we'll be tomorrow, and probably the next day. Aggressive with resalting, and then waiting, let the salt, hopefully the sun will be out again, take effect to melt it. And what has been happening is that has been working, and when we come back with the plow, it chips it up, and it leaves some of those potholes that the washboard effect that you're getting, because some of the stuff is coming up, but not all of it is. So we will continually do that. We did that today, we'll do it tomorrow, we'll do it the next day, and in the meantime, they're calling for more snow. But
Mike, how is our salt supply? And to what temperature does it work? How low?
just salt by itself works into the 20s. We add, we call it our cocktail, we add beet juice and calcium chloride, and we make our own salt brine, which is just salt and water. And we add that to it, which helps bring the temperatures down into the teens. But when you get into the single digits, no amount of additives to the salt is going to help it, and that's when you're only going to get, when we have single teens temperature, or single digit temperatures and snow with the salt, that's when you just see like a slushy mixture. It doesn't melt down to water like you will notice when the temperature rises up. So that's as best as it does, and so we
And
have
our supply?
that problem. Pardon me?
Our supply?
Our supply's fine. We were fully stocked before this came, which means we have about 6,000 tons on hand. We can still order another 6,000 tons probably for the remainder of the year. Typically, we've gone through 12,000 tons of salt, and I think we have on order about 12,000 again this year. So I think
question.
we should be okay.
Okay.
Yes. Mike, one other thing, if I may. Compounding this storm with the wet snow was all the tree branches that came down. So in the meantime, while we're plowing, we're also getting hundreds of calls for branches coming down. And so we enlisted Homer Tree Service, who we already have under contract for tree removals in some spots, to help us out to get some of those branches. Some of the other stuff we went through with the plow truck and just kind of moved them off to the side. So we will eventually get those too. If not, Homer hasn't picked it up, we'll get them eventually.
One other thing, and wasn't a couple of your plows committed because ambulance, emergency vehicles were getting stuck?
If any emergency vehicle was getting stuck and they called us, we would take them off whatever they were doing and go over there, yes.
So,
Yes.
Okay, a couple questions, Mike. Mike, first of all, you're publicly saying you only need 31 plows?
Pardon me?
You only need 31 plows, you're good. No, this is a serious question, because I'm hearing a different story than what goes around. It's no secret, when you live out far west, I think Councilman Gurl will back this up, you drive on Shorewood at 8 o'clock, Black Road in Shorewood, 8 o'clock Monday morning, it's wet pavement. You know when you're in Joliet because it's snowpack. Explain to me why they're doing better than us if we have enough plows.
Just to cite a quick example, Maintenance District 1, which is basically Route 59 west, all the way to Arbiter Road and beyond, has 6 guys. Shorewood and has, I don't know, 100 and some miles of streets. At most. Shorewood has less miles of streets and they have 17 people. So it's just a matter of they have more people to get on the streets.
So we really do need to head back to 48 trucks. How much quicker after any snow event, because I will tell you again, and I deal with people, very responsive to my fellow residents, we have snowpack on our streets after every snow.
Correct.
Because we can't get the trucks in there quick enough before the cars pack it down. Okay?
Yeah.
How much quicker would we get into the neighborhoods on a standard or average snow if we had our 48 full contingent? It was gutted by 40% in 2009, 2010. Correct my numbers if I'm wrong. We used to be at 48 trucks.
I think we had 45 at one time.
Okay.
Back in 2007 or 2008.
Okay.
But in answer to your, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, okay, go ahead.
I guess in answer to your question, it's hard to quantify how much quicker. Obviously, it would be quicker, but there still will be streets with snowpack on it. It's just, I don't know that it's entirely possible to have, budgetarily wise, to have a staff big enough to ensure that every street in the city would not have any snowpack on it.
Yeah, but we got snowpack on Caton Farm Road that's dangerous right now tonight.
Right.
Black.
And Black Road.
Right.
And Essington. I did notice coming through Six Corners, that's only wet. It's not snowpacked.
Mayor?
But I tried to explain why that, again, every storm is different, you know what I mean? There's no set policy on how the storm is, and again, why this happened was because of the wet snow. We went on over that, and people were driving on it, we were driving on it, we were just
You're talking about the wavy potholes.
The salt
Okay, why do
started
we have them
working,
on Caton
we got
Farm,
trucks come out.
Black Road, Essington, Droughton? Why do we have them on those and we don't have them downtown on the streets? They're wet.
It's just a matter of how the salt is working with the streets and then how quickly we can get out there. When we go through the mains, it could be 3-4 hours. It could be 2 hours here. It could be 3-4 hours out farther west because you've got longer mains, you've got a longer return time.
So getting back to the
There's a lot of
45
process.
trucks would speed the process up.
Correct.
Thank you.
One second. I noticed going home from work, Black Road was terrible, but coming in this evening for the meeting, it is a lot better. Must be because you put a lot of salt down or something, but it is a lot better than it was at 4
Yeah,
o'clock. Yeah.
I would say that all the streets are getting better. They're not 100% perfect. It's not what we'd like, but the guys and girls have been working extremely hard getting Black Road, working on Caton Farm, Essington Road.
The
Drought.
31 people.
Pardon me?
The 31 people, not the 45.
Correct.
Okay.
Jim?
Just a couple comments. First off, I'd like to thank our staff for risking their lives in this weather. And if you ever been in one of the snow plows when they're out there, it's an experience. It's very dangerous. The visibility's poor, and a lot of these guys work long hours. So kudos to them and thank them. But if you guys recall, I think we had the same conversation about a year ago. It was another record snowfall when we had this discussion. And I believe we discussed about putting a plan together of how we can get back to core basic services of what the city's created for. Policing, fire, streets, sewer, water, okay? All I've seen is we come up with pet projects to fund. A scoreboard that's not broken that we're gonna replace at the Ball Diamond. We're talking about giving subsidies to amenities within the city, okay? My question is, and what we brought up here, and again, I haven't seen it, is why aren't we looking at manning, like we just talked about the Emerald Ash Borer, part-timers to come in when we have a snowfall like this, or for a season, okay, and lease vehicles? I mean, it's like we just, every year, the weather's getting worse and worse, and we do nothing about it. We just keep making excuses. There's gotta be a plan put together. These roads are unacceptable, especially around the hospital. I've got probably 55 complaints from one area, okay? Nothing against our guys, they just can't get to all the spots. Guys need to then take naps. The plowing that's taken place is unacceptable for the standards of a city that is this large. We continue to kick the can down the road and just say, oh, well, deal with it, we had 16.1 inches. What are we gonna do? When we have another snowfall and we have 19 inches, are we gonna say, oh, well? We need to start making sure that we are funding the core services so our personnel, like the fire department, doesn't have to be followed or led by a dump truck or a plow truck, whatever it is that's leading them. This is unacceptable. And what I'm hearing from my residents that I represent, like all of you guys in your districts, that this is unacceptable. We had an issue with crime. 9 murders since Thanksgiving. This council did something. It's unacceptable citywide of how these streets are being cleared. The manpower is not there. I think immediately, with staff, you guys need to look at some type of plan for when we have snowfall to call people out. I brought up a year ago when we had the same issue about what the state does with snowbirds. We need to sit down with folks in the union, with our staff that's actually out there in the plows and management to put a plan together to make sure that at least our main arteries are cleared. I mean, some of our cul-de-sacs are cleaner than the actual streets in subdivisions. I think that's unacceptable, and I think as a council, we are all responsible, And we need to put some type of plan together, because it's not going to get any better. We can't dictate and control what's happening with the weather. We need some type of plan, whether it's hiring people in temporary, bringing back some of the retirees, leasing vehicles. I mean, there's got to be some type of compromise to be put forth. No different than what we did to solve the crime that's at a high in Joliet. That's the end of my comments.
Anybody else?
Well, I just wanted to finish my comment, Mayor. So can we have that by the next council meeting? I'd like some kind of preliminary plan on how we're going to restock.
And how we're going to fund it.
You know, since it's,
That's a better
I could
question.
throw it out there too. Let's do some budget amendments. Let's cut some stuff that was presented to us in this last budget that maybe you don't need to fund. All right.
Make some recommendations.
That's
I
good.
mean, we have some departments, there only one department's fully staffed. Everybody else is down 20, 30, 35, 40%. And we can't ignore these departments anymore.
If our
Because the people out here deserve better. The people on the west side in District 1 and District 3 deserve better. Probably 60% or 70% of the commerce that happens in the city happens at Louis Joliet's Mall and in that corridor. Happens along 59, happens along Essington. There's a lot of taxes coming out of District 1, and it's unacceptable that we're riding on roads. I got a minivan. I got to get a new tire. There's a point to this story. I'm driving up now Caton Farm going, I hope this doesn't make my tire flat. That's how bad it is. It's not just my residents, that's myself. And I'm tired of it. It's unacceptable. Something needs to be done.
Mayor, one last comment. It's got to be alarming to all of us that we have to have a plow truck go in before an emergency personnel vehicle goes into a call. That should make all of us be alarmed and sit back and say something needs to be done. It's unacceptable. The second point I want to just make on this whole issue is whenever there's a fire, there's mutual aid. Have we looked also at that opportunity? You talk about Shorewood, your quote, they have more people. Have you looked at agreements with them when they're done to work with us, or townships? There's got to be some type of compromise out there. I don't get paid enough up here to come up with all the solutions. That's why you guys make the big bucks. But I think you guys need to get in a room, look at what other municipalities are doing of our size, and solve the issue.
Terry? Bob?
New business. First of all, Mike and Jim, thank you. And I don't want to mischaracterize this, I think you guys have done a great job. It may be a little bit unfair that you're fielding tough questions today that you don't control. So thank you for the hard work and for your employees. I know how hard they worked. I spoke with a snowplow driver who told me he got home about midnight last night and was up plowing at 6 a.m. this morning. So they're being pushed as hard as they can. There's nothing else they can do. One of the issues I had was with tree branches. You've addressed it already. I had several branches fall in my own yard. One broke my fence, but I also got complaints from people in the neighborhood. Should they contact the city and the city will bring Homer Tree out? Do you know exactly how this would work?
Yeah, they can contact us.
Okay. Second, I know what the answer is, but I was asked to bring it up about eventually getting plows in the alleys. Obviously, it's not possible when the main arteries and the side streets still need work. Is there ever any plan in a big snow like this, especially when we require people to take their cars off the road, to eventually send a plow down the alley, or is that out of the question due to their staffing?
Well, the main problem with that is our trucks are too big to go down the alleys. We would have to get a different kind of truck, or we would have to hire contractors out to do something like that. That again would.
Okay. The third question about snow, and the final one for me, I know we talked about this last year. I did get requests. Is there any reconsideration? I know there's GPS on the trucks, but about somehow posting that online or giving people an idea of what neighborhood's being plowed, where you guys are going next? Or do you think that would cause more problems than it would solve with people?
No, we're still working on getting that. I don't know that, one of the questions that was brought up to me was then the resident will know when his area is going to be done. And I don't know that that's possible without the resident knowing what the plow routes are. And then maybe that's something that the software people can figure out and plug that in and give some kind of estimate. But either way, we're still working on allowing the public to see what has been done, and where they're at and how they're moving, and they usually converge in one area.
Okay. Thank you. On an unrelated subject, sit down. Jim, there was an incident on Reed Street about a month ago, and I think it was publicized, I think the council is aware of it, where a loose dog or several loose dogs were allowed to attack other dogs. I guess my understanding of how this was resolved was that one of the dogs was actually put down. Is there any, Marty, maybe you could chime in, have we considered, or do you know of other municipalities where there's some local ordinance which would actually penalize the dog owner if something like this were to happen to him? You know, if there's any consideration if this is being done anywhere else?
Oh, like civilly?
No, from an ordinance standpoint, if there's a way the city, I know it's a little bit outside the realm of what we do, this is more of an animal control issue. It just, I think everybody agreed in this instant that it may have been unfair that the dog paid the ultimate price when it was an owner who may or may not have been adequately supervising the dog.
There's a state statute. That's essentially what most municipalities follow.
Could we look to maybe adopt that locally? We can't control what gets prosecuted by the state's attorney's office, but we can control what our attorneys do.
It might be done already.
We'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Report back.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor, just for Mike again. Excuse me, yeah, everybody received calls, Mike, and I know everybody's doing their best. I received some complimentary calls on the other hand, too, how good the crews did and yourselves, and I think I forwarded those to you, so you can share them with the guys. But my question is, I got a call from a guy in the subdivision who was complimentary of the whole process, but his concern was there were all kinds of cars left parked on the street where there was adequate off-park. All they had to do was put them in their driveways. And my question is, how does it work? I mean, do your drivers call in to the police when they see a car? Or, I mean, who enforces it and how does that work?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we run into that a lot, and drivers do contact us back in the office, and then we will ask the police department to assist us on that block. And the police department has been excellent. Chief Benton and his crew have been excellent in helping us out. They'll go out and they'll try to get the people to move their cars first. As a last resort, they'll write a ticket. So it's still an ongoing process. Hopefully, it's starting to get better, but that is still a problem, yes.
Right. Okay, thank you.
I'd just like to say, I didn't get any complaints, only one, and it was valid. However, what people need to keep in mind, this was an unusual snow event. Now, last year, we had the polar vortex. It was snowing, and then it melted, and snowing and melted, and everybody in the department did a fantastic job, and there were no complaints. People understood. And then all of a sudden, we've had a nice winter. We have an unusual snow event that drops 13-plus inches. There's 2.5 more coming, you know, and with the equipment that you all have, you know, people need to be a little patient. It was an unusual event, terrible heavy snow, and trees broken down, but I can't compliment you guys enough. I mean, with what you had to do, and I know you worked very, very hard, so it's unfortunate that you were put on the hot spot tonight with all those questions, and but, you know, they are valid questions, but it's unfortunate that you had to ding, ding, ding.
No problem.
Fend them off.
Thanks.
But compliments to all of the staff that did their best.
Mike, I got about 12 compliments on the great job. I got some complaints, but I got to give you credit. The complaints I got, I forwarded to you, and you got right back to me, let you know they were there, or they're on their way, or whatever, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Your Honor?
Yes. One last comment, Mayor, on the whole thing I started. We'll bring it full circle. Oh, no, I give you guys kudos for the undermanning you have. It's amazing that you get any of it done. And I don't want to see this conversation somehow to be veered or remembered in a different direction. As I said when I started out, the guys in this department work their butts off.
Correct.
We're falling down on the job because we're not giving you enough resources. That's the truth. It's not your fault. It's our fault. From Mr. Hock all the way around, not including you, Krista. And I do want to clarify that I didn't get any city snowplows into my neighborhood until Monday afternoon. Fellow residents, no, we don't get special treatment. When did they come to your neighborhood, Mayor? Just to go on the record, the city plows.
Mine are private streets, so we hire somebody to do ours.
Wait a minute, that's soon, Larry, we got there?
Yeah.
That was 5 o'clock. Mayor, one quick thing. Mike, you know, there's no doubt every department's shorted. You are too. And that resulted of the fact that, you know, the bottom fell out of everything all at one time, and we were faced with laying off people, raising property taxes, or offering an early retirement incentive. So we did that for a period of years. But I think the key question has to come between yourself, Jim Trisna, and the city manager to tell us what the magic number is of people you need in your department. I mean, is 45 enough? Is 43 enough? Is 53 enough, you know?
agree.
And I think that and the amount of equipment needs to come from you guys. And then,
No
and then,
retaliation.
and then it's up to us to try to make it work.
That's exactly what I brought up.
You're the experts.
Just one quick point to Mike. My hat is off to you guys, the whole department, for what you all did during this terrible weather. But I agree with Councilman Turk and the others that have said, let us know what tools and resources you need. This is why we're here. You know, this is the only way we're going to make this city work and move forward, is that we all work together in it. So we need to know that, and we need to hear from you instead of us telling you, you got to do this, you got to do that. Let us hear from you as well, and let us know what staff needs, and then we can work good with that. And the other little quick point I want to, and you don't have anything to do with this, I'm going to direct this over to Jim Egan and Jim Trisner. But I do want to thank you guys for the work that you did so quickly on those, the water main breaks that we were having. It seems like they were all coming right in a cluster. And so you were on top of it. Thank you so much for that. And again, let us know what it is we need. We know we need a lot of infrastructure work, and you guys are out there, and the guys in the unions who are working, you're out there putting in your all. But we don't know, and we can't work on it unless you let us know what that is. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Along those same lines about main break, I had talked to City Manager Hawk yesterday about a sewer force main break on Larkin Avenue, where raw sewage was supposedly in the street for 7.5 hours. Did you happen to look that up?
Yeah, I talked to Mr. Egan about that it didn't go into the street, it was on the ground. And so the determination was made, it happened Thursday evening, and the determination was to approach it in daylight Friday morning, so they kept it at the ground. So nothing got into the
But you let raw sewage seep for 7.5 hours without getting
It's a
it?
lift station, so it was a main break there, so your pump, you turn the pump off, and unless that cylinder fills up completely, and you have to turn it on, you've got time to make the repair before it fills up and starts pumping again.
So it wasn't leaking for 7.5 hours?
No, not that long.
Okay, thanks for the follow-up.
Fair?
Yes.
I just want to, Mike, thank you and Jim as well for all your hard efforts, and also there's been a lot of thanks and accolades up here. If you could make sure, and I know John is back there as well, make sure you pass that along to the guys who are doing an absolute yeoman's job, a dangerous job, and I'm sure they're thoroughly exhausted at this point, but make sure you pass that along to the guys, how proud we are of them and how much we appreciate what they're doing. I do have a question, though, with respect to when we do have residents that call, and it's no secret, we've all gotten a lot of calls here in the last couple of days, and a lot of those calls are, I don't think I got plowed. I think they missed me. Where, in fact, we know, at least with your GPS, that somebody did, a truck driver, a plow driver did make a pass through that subdivision or along one of the main routes. Let's think about what is the best way to communicate to our residents that either one, and I know you have the ability to do this, it's just the way of communicating it to our residents. One is, hey, look, a truck driver or a plow was through there 3 hours ago at this time, and I know we have the ability to do that, or in the next 3 hours, we should be getting to your subdivision. Think about what is the best way, and you might want to talk to the drivers as well. What's the best way to communicate that to our residents? Because I think a lot of their frustration is, I don't think someone got to me. I think they missed me, type of thing. So I think that would be would go a long way with our residents to try and communicate that. And I know you mentioned possibly putting something on the website, but we might be a ways off from that. Right now, we're kind of communicating through email. I don't know if that's the best way to do that or not, but if you could think about that, and if it's investing a few dollars in our website to maybe get the GPS up so where a resident could go online and be able to identify when they're going to get plowed or how far out they are from getting plowed, or if they already did get plowed. Think about that, that communication end of it, because I think it'd go a long way.
Couple things. We do that communication with them. If they do call, we will tell them
Okay.
that we did plow your street, or we're in the area, we should be in there within a couple hours. We do get to do that for some people. The other thing is the perception problem with the resident, and I understand it, it doesn't, whether they didn't think the plow went through because it's either fluffed up or it's packed down, the snow removal, but.
Or maybe they went through early and we got 10 more inches of snow,
Yeah,
that
a lot of
came.
times that
Sure.
happen. One of the other things we could do, and I suppose, we could do updates every couple hours or something of, where we're at. And maybe that could be on the website or something. I don't know how to, I'll lean on the expert back there, Scott, and see if he can.
Sure.
I mean, that's something we could do with social media in the meantime before we get the GPS.
Sure. I think we have this technology available. Let's make sure we're using it,
Sure.
to our benefit.
Councilman, if I may, I know, being in my office as I am, and I get these complaints, and I forward them to Mike, and them instance, he'll answer me and say, hey, GPS, they were through there at 10:05 this morning, blah, 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 and then I answer that council question. A lot of times, you're right, it's drifted over or whatever, and they don't think they've been true, but he does do that to me in my office. and
Oh,
I thank him for that, yes.
I've had plenty of them.
Yes.
Absolutely. Very responsive.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I just, one quick question, Mike. Again, as everyone said, thanks, and you've always been responsive to me, even on Sunday when I called you, and I know you was in the thick of things. But the very reason I called you Sunday, the Hill Streets, and I know we've talked about this before, is there a priority with McKinley Street that people was having a problem getting up? Because, and I know it was early Sunday morning, so the guys probably was still on the main streets. So, and I think somebody, even Betty had mentioned Woodruff to me. It's another hill street in my area, and I'm sitting here trying to think of it. I believe it's 4th Avenue between Hobbs and somewhere like that.
Yes.
The snow before, I believe, you sent the truck back out, and not this snowstorm or not this event, but the other one. So is there a priority with the hill streets and getting them plowed or salted?
Yeah, there is. We try to maintain those, and then Woodruff and Draper, I think we were on those a couple times, and we might have been on McKinley a couple times, but again, this kind of event, we had that, and you're probably still having it today with some of those hill streets because of the snow is slushing up. But it is one of our priorities. It's not a main route or a secondary, so it kind of falters into that category whenever we can get to it. And I know when you called me on Sunday, we were in the thick of everything.
Right.
So we do try to, redirect somebody when there's a problem like that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Mayor, thanks, Mike. Mayor and council comments, or did we?
I think we just had them.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn? I'm sorry, who?
Oops.
Yeah. Sure.
So moved.
Second.
Third.
All in favor?
Aye.
How we run a union, anybody can talk in a union. Know that, but they can all just say whatever they want. Real quick, John Dillon, President of Local 440, Industry Department, Foreman. Several issues you guys brought up. Realistically, I'll tell you, from a union standpoint, you need 20 more guys. We're down to 1978, 79 levels. The city was at Essington, not where it's at now. Realistically, that's going to cost you 1.3 mil. That's a ballpark. You need 20 vehicles, not a pickup truck, larger trucks. That's going to cost you about 3 million. You want a ballpark? That's a ballpark figure. You want to start talking amongst yourselves? Figure that out. How much? That's just one department that you're solving one problem with. If you look at our unit all over, you're going to need dispatchers, you're going to need clerical people in police department, sewer department. Are you guys aware of? We got 5 guys and a foreman. in a city of this size. That's 6 guys doing sewer work. Route 6, 6 guys. I think there's a village up there up north, it's not a village, 78,000 people, they got 14 or 15 guys doing sewer work. We don't have it. Just for your information, I'm really getting fed up with my union always taking the blunt from the public or from whoever, people not speaking up, because we have so many bosses. There's a lot of jobs that need to be filled. Fill them, don't fill them. That is your choice. It's going to cost you money. But before you start buying and giving money out to all these other entities, you got to make a choice. Public service, which is all police, fire, and all the local stuff that 440 does. Utilities, jeepers, all the street maintenance. You hired 4 guys. We got 4 guys coming. And as I told my bosses, 8, that's great. And I've told a couple of your councilmen, 4 guys is nice. You guys brought that for the trees. We need trucks for the guys that, otherwise I'm going to tell my guys, sit down and relax because the other 4 guys are going to take your big truck to go get those trees. While you're thinking about it, think about a bucket truck for those. Because the way we do it, the guys go along with it, we do it, but a bucket truck is realistic. But if you want those 4 guys doing all these 15, 20,000 trees, which they probably could do every single day pretty much, it takes equipment for them. You can't give 4 guys over here and take the guys over here's equipment and here's the equipment, go out, because you got nothing, then they won't be able to do their job, which is all the other maintenance that goes on. So when you start looking at budgets, it's a lot. And Councilman Farnley, if you go to the other town, they ain't gonna know this town. Most of my guys all live in this town. Most of our workers all live in this town. They do know the town, and they do care about where they plow. I have 7 guys just in my district. I go from Rayner to infantry, from Theodore all the way to 80. That's my area, all right? Your area, really bad, Councilman, really bad. Fortunately, at 5 o'clock in the evening on Monday, there was some guys from 2 other districts from the central part that decided to go. I know I had 4 guys of my own. I was glad they went. It's up to them if they want to keep on going. 5 guys were sent out there to far west. There's nobody out there. Like you said, 6 guys. We don't have guys. You don't have the equipment. And even if you hire these guys, there's always plenty of work in the summer. Don't trust me. With all the dig-ups that go on, the soup between the water and sewer, there's always work. There's never a minute where they could just say, sit back. It goes, same thing for the clerical. There's not time where they said, let's just have a coffee break. It's just a load of workload, and there's always work there. These people come in, it's different from emergency services where they're on call. Bob, it's time for you to go patrol. Mayor's firing to you go on the ambulance today, we got a call for you. If you're not, they don't have a set routine. Well, officers they have to go around the circle and make sure somebody's not stealing the hubcaps. That is true. Because I know I dispatched them, they better do something other than, but you're always there to go on call. These other people, there's always work for them. So when you start, I hope you did, I haven't looked at the new budget, but I'm sure it's not in there, but next year, maybe next year. But we don't live in a fantasy world here. There's all kinds of equipment you would have to buy and guys you'd have to support. 1979, 1978 levels in the street department is what we're at. You would need 15, actually 20 jobs to really bring it up, and that's not guarantee you that it would all be clear. From the Black Road that you mentioned, pothole, yes, it is we have to split it up. I got 2 guys, basically, their route is actually from Larkin Avenue to infantry. They're doing everything west of Larkin Avenue to infantry. And then the other area is split up by 5 other guys. It's not a lot of guys. So if you want it done faster, you have to have guys. That's your choice. That's all I want to say.
Thanks, John. Thank you. Thank you.
No.
Is there a motion?
No.
Second.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
To the council, this is one quick question with citizens, and this is a problem where I'm at. You know, is the council gonna vote on it to make sure we approve it so we can plow the alleys, or is that something in the making? Because people brought that to my attention, and I was curious if that's gonna be something in the making that council has to eventually vote on to do. That's what my.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Can I just make a comment?
Sure, absolutely. I'm sorry, I thought we were done.
I just want to thank the Joliet Hospice Organization. My mother-in-law was in hospice for well over a year, and she had pancreatic cancer, and she lasted a very long time. And anyway, what I want to say is, if you have a loved one that needs long-term care where there's not going to be any hope, please call them in. She was at home for many months until they had to take her to the home, and this is a fantastic facility. So if you ever have extra money you want to donate or donate in someone's name, they work very hard. They give excellent care to their patients, and the end result is to keep your patient or your loved one comfortable. Families can sleep there 24/7, and they treat them like their own loved ones. And she's going to be one of the record breakers. Unfortunately, she was there for 6 months. The normal stay is 1 to 2 days. And she just was there forever, and it was hard on the family, but they were very compassionate. They offer counseling, grief services, and everybody there, it just gives the best possible care ever. And I just can't say enough good things about the Joliet Hospice Organization. So I want to thank everybody that works there, and keep them in mind if you ever, I hope you never do, but if you ever need it for a family or loved member or a neighbor. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I would like to echo them sentiments. I had a brother-in-law that spent quite a bit of time up there, and what they do is amazing. It's amazing. Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.